Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Yakuza 5 EX Hard difficulty walkthrough. This is part 1, chapter 1. It is called The Wanderer. We are playing as Kazuma Kiryu, the eponymous main character of the Yakuza series. But anybody who's played the more recent ones will know that this series has gone a little of a different direction in the way that you play. So it now is a mixture of characters coming together into a single narrative, and all of it is reinforcing a central plot thread that is convoluted, twisted, and very Yakuza-esque. So this walkthrough right now is going to be a no-nonsense, do main missions, beat main things, beat the game type deal. I'm not going to be doing any of the extra stuff, I'm not going to be doing any of the side stuff, sub-stories, challenges, any of that kind of malarkey. It's just going to be 100%. This will get you through the game if you are struggling with it or struggling to know where to go. And the good news about Yakuza 5 is it has a much better waypoint than the series is known for, so it's pretty difficult to get lost on this one, even when doing some of the side story stuff. Not all the time, it can be quite tricky, but for the most, you're going to have the easiest time you've had in any of the Yakuza games that I've personally played. But because this is only a 7-minute video, I'm not going to go into my particular history with this series. We're just going to talk about what this is going to be. So this very first mission here, we have to do an apology for a company, and you get the choice of a gift to buy. And depending on the gift that you buy, will depend on how much it makes the person you give it to happy, and it'll probably dictate what reward you get. I have not got any strategies here to get the best gift or particular things to do. On my first playthrough, I gave some aftershave that I bought from like La Marche, something like that. This time I gave some sake. It all kind of works. You'll also notice on the map right now that there are stop signs which tell you that you cannot go up those streets. At this moment in time, the game is incredibly linear because it's introducing you to how things function, and it doesn't want you going off the beaten path, as I struggle to get through these tourists, or residents, or whatever you want to call it, and the incredibly awkward entering the building animation there, where he does his little camp sway, which I love. But the next mission, once you've bought the gift and delivered it, is going to be paying some money towards Sunshine Orphanage, something that Yakuza fans will immediately recognise from a previous game. And then once you do that, it's going to introduce us to the combat. You'll notice there is a lot being trimmed out here, guys. I am trimming out all the talking, all the cutscenes, all the unnecessary stuff. The stuff that I'm leaving in is where we actually get to play. And the more you do that in Yakuza, the more you realise how little you play this game outside of sub-stories, exploration, and the extra content. There's actually a small amount of gameplay, and right now is what the combat looks like when we do the random battles. So at the very beginning, you'll notice I was throwing a couple of them into the walls. Wasn't my intention, it's just this is a context sensitive area, and instead of chucking them into the ground, Kazuma for some reason was throwing them towards the door. And that right there was a bit of a mistake, because I was too close to the wall. The move I was going to just then, to try and do, was to spin him around and do the crowd control maneuver. But you'll see me talk about that a little bit later on, when I really need to stress it. Because the combat in this game is really interesting, and it's something I'm going to spend a lot of time discussing. But at the moment, I don't really have the time to get too in-depth with it. So the thing that I will tell you is it's surprisingly deep, while still being a little imprecise, annoyingly janky at times, but there is a lot to enjoy and a lot to love. Once again, can't really go into too much detail here as we push up this main street, running towards the objective on the map, which is meeting up with our boss. At the current moment in time, good old Kazuya, that's the wrong name, Kazuma, sorry, is working as a taxi driver, and this is the guy who hired us, so he wants to take us out on a lovely night out, get some beer in us, get some udon noodles or whatever the hell they eat on this particular adventure. You're not going to see much of it because of course I've trimmed it out. And here are the town thugs that are starting problems, so we get to fight them. And immediately off the bat I pick up the weapon, and then I'm going to introduce you to the crowd control technique. So you see how I've grabbed this guy's leg when he's on the ground? If you have heat and you press triangle, you will do that as long as you are not near any kind of object that you can smash him into. And then we immediately transition into the boss fight. So this is actually a really tough boss fight on hard difficulty new game, But because this is premium adventure, which means you inherit your equipment for extra hard, it's nowhere near as ridiculous. And I'm going to miss a grab here, and I'm going to get punished by that guy. He grabs me, get a couple of quick jabs to my ribs, and then it triggers the kind of climax heat action that you're going to see here, which is the essence of counterattack. So when you get a boss's life down to a certain parameter, it's going to trigger these moments where it says feel the heat. I love them in this game because you don't have to bash the trigger. Never liked the PS3's trigger, don't like the PS4 trigger that much, so thankfully on this game it has you pressing a different button, which I think is just a lot more enjoyable to do. But once you do that, you do a very, over-the-top dramatic action, and you generally do a hell of a lot of damage and or win the fight. So it usually happens towards the end, and you can cash on banking a lot of damage. But the game was just explaining then. At the left-hand side of the screen, you'll notice there was a bottle. The bottle signifies that I'd had some alcohol, and it means I'm drunk. And drinking on this game does a handful of interesting things. On one hand, it can fill your life up, it can fill your heat bar up. Additionally, it can make you drunk, which causes you to get into more random fights on the street. It can also open up the opportunity to do some drunk-exclusive heat techniques / maneuvers, which I don't know that much about Yakuza 5. I don't know that much about Yakuza to really tell you all the ins and outs, but just know that a lot of experimentation and you'll probably find some pretty cool stuff. And then the last fight of this is up against Sasuke, this guy, and he's the person that you want to do everything you can with at the beginning of this game. As soon as he introduces himself and he shows you this tutorial, you want to come back to him and you want to get all of his techniques, because this is the person who teaches you the Kamaki Parry, he teaches you the Tiger Drop, and those two techniques are the most powerful in the game. If you can get good at those two techniques, you can beat anything in this game relatively easily. You'll make the entire Colosseum look like a joke. But you have to beat him first, and beating him can be very tricky. So before I sign off here, even though the video is done and that's the end of Chapter 1, just a little tip for people that are struggling with the Sasuke fight. When you come up against him, if you've got re-guard, it'll make it a little bit easier, because then you can get your guard back up when he breaks it. But for the most, all you want to do not engage him in any kind of standard way. Just grab him and punch him twice in the grab. That's all you want to do. You generally don't have enough time to throw him, so just grab him and try and punch him in the grab. He'll break the grab him again. Block his attacks, break the hit string with the push block, grab him, punch, breaks it, and keep doing that. When he goes into the dragon heated mode, run away from him and do not get grabbed, because it does massive damage. The best thing to do in that moment, if you have heat yourself, is to save it for when he turns and you turn as well. You'll not be able to damage him, but he'll not be able to damage you either, and he does way more damage than you do, so you can kind of neutralize it that way. But that is the end of the chapter, guys. Welcome to my Yakuza walkthrough. It's going to be something a little bit different to what I've done on the channel, and a couple videos from now, I think it's Chapter 3, I'm going to really be able to speak about these games and this series, which are quite new to me, but not necessarily new games. So thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.